Hello everyone, and welcome to another tutorial for Visual Basic using the Visual Studio IDE. In this episode, we're going to be looking at if statements. Now, if statements are a way in which we can control the flow of a program. It is a type of control structure. And when we use an if statement, essentially what we do is we ask our program a question. If that question returns true, we do something. And if it returns false, then we either do something else or do nothing at all. It depends how we've coded it. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is we are going to create a short little quiz. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to start by adding a button towards the bottom of the screen. And we're going to make it say, my results. We should also increase the font size of that a bit. So we use the size under the font menu, and we're going to make it bold. Now let's make the button a bit bigger. There we go. And we're going to give this button a meaningful name. So let's call it the answer button. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to add a checkbox. And at the moment, we're going to start off our program with a single question. And these are going to be true or false questions. So we can use the checkbox, which is something that when we are running our program, the user can tick it or just leave it unticked. That is a Boolean value statement, so it can either be true or false. It can be checked or unchecked. It is the same sort of logic. So we are going to be asking true or false questions. So let's just call this question box 1. For our first question, and we'll have no text for this because we want the text to be on the left. So I have made that an empty string, the text for that. Finally, we're going to add a label. This label will contain the actual question. And this label's text is going to read, do Boolean variables store numerical data? Question mark. Okay, let's move this a bit to the left. And as you can see, whereas normally we would have a blue line for indicating how things line up, in the case of a checkbox, we actually get a pink line as well. So if we have against a blue line, you can see it slightly off-center. So essentially the bottom of the label is lined up exactly with the bottom of the checkbox. Whereas if you move it up to the pink line, it makes it nice and central, so that it lines up perfectly and makes it clear that this label syncs up with this checkbox. So that's how we're going to do that. So we've got the label here asking the question. In fact, let's put a 1 before it as well. 1. So question 1, do variables store numerical data? Yes or no, chosen by a tick. And then we'll have a my results button to press. So the next thing we're going to do is create an event handler for our button. So let's do that by double clicking it as usual. And now we have our answer button click event. And we are going to essentially ask our program a question. We're going to ask whether this is checked or not, and then produce the appropriate response. So if the question is, do Boolean variables store numerical data? Should the answer be true or false? Well, the answer should be false, because Boolean variables only store true or false data, not numbers. So what we're going to do is use the if statement to check whether the user, has input the correct answer or not. So we're going to ask if question box 1, and the property we use for this is the .checked property. If question box 1 .checked equals false, then, and then we get our end if as well, then we want our box to tell the user that they are correct. Now you will notice that we haven't included a label in this for producing the output answer. That's because this time we're going to use an alternative method of displaying a prompt to the user. And that is going to be the message box. Now the keyword for message box is you type MSG box, like that. And then we put open close brackets. And inside those brackets, we want to put a string. So a string is plain text, and we have to denote that by using quotation marks. So we're going to make this say, well done, you got the correct answer. So what's going to happen now is when we press our button, if the question box .checked is false, so it has not got a tick in the box, it will display a message box. And what do you think will happen if question box 1.checked is true? Well, the answer is it will do nothing. Because if it's true, it will skip anything inside our if and our end if texts there. So the message box code that we just put in the middle will not be run unless this statement here returns true. So let's give that a go. So let's first try ticking this box, which means that we have the incorrect answer. What should happen is when we press my results, nothing happens. And as you can see, I'm clicking it and nothing is happening. However, if we uncheck the answer, then our button will do this. And there we have it. We have a message box which reads, well done, you got the correct answer, as we specified in our code. Excellent. So because our question box was not checked, which is what this was looking for, then it displayed our message box as we coded here. So what if we wanted to have it say, you got the wrong answer? Well, the thing we would use is before our end if, we would type else. And that's it. Press else and then enter. And then we go on to a line between the else and the end if. And what we're going to write here is, once again, message box. And then inside that, we're going to put the quotation marks, and we are going to write, you got the wrong answer. So the way this works is when we reach a if statement block, like this one, we go through conditions until something is found to be true, or we get to the end where our else statement is. So we are saying, if question box 1.checked is false, then do the line associated with that, which is here. If that is not found to happen though, so if our question box 1 is checked, then and only then do we go to this else statement here. So if question box 1.checked is false, we do this line, but under any other outcome, which is what else means, any other outcome we haven't covered already, then we do this. You got the wrong answer. So if our box is checked now, instead of doing nothing, what should happen is it tells us you got the wrong answer. Because we skipped this line of code here, went to the else statement instead, and we followed the code reasoning for that.